to our second edition of our Frugal Foodies Home Edition. Very excited to be joining Culinary again to take you on a culinary journey of dinner on a dime. So if you are back and joining us, welcome back. Hopefully this will be just as fun, if not more fun than last time. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. I am Payne Garcia. I am a student central advisor, and I'm here with Melissa today, going over, I think today we're going to be making Salisbury steak and prepping Swedish meatballs. So before we get started, a little bit of housekeeping stuff. You don't need to have your camera on. This is about you guys making sure that you can see us and be able to cook along with us. But just in case, if you don't have your ingredients all prepped in front of you, I think the term for that is mise en place. Did I say it correctly? Okay, Melissa, she shook her head, so I'm thinking that I probably said it correctly. But what I want to do is, last time I unboxed the ingredients in front of you. I actually have the ingredients in front of me, so I'm going to run through what you should have in your meal kit. You guys ready? Okay, so in your kit, you should have ground beef. You should have some beef paste. Don't worry, it looks scary, but Melissa will tell you what to do with this. You're gonna have some noodles. We've got breadcrumbs, eggs, Worcestershire sauce, some flour, potatoes, and these are really large potatoes, so don't be alarmed. This is enough. It's enough for four for sure. A giant carrot here. We've got onions and garlic, mushrooms, pepper, and this is green beans, but your vegetable may vary. And then other things that you might want to make sure that you have that we did not provide would be your butter, salt, and pepper, and milk if you choose to use milk. All right, so hopefully when I went through all of that, you were either taking it out yourself or already have it prepped, because you want to make sure that you have everything within arm's reach, because you don't want to be scrambling for any ingredients as you're cooking along with us. So for the students out there, I want to let you guys know that this is a moolah earning event. So for any students out there who are joining us for cooking along with us tonight, you're going to earn yourself $10 in Money Matters moolah. So what is moolah? Moolah is essentially raffle tickets that you earn throughout the semester doing things Money Matters related, and then you win prizes along the way. I just want to show you guys that we have our winners from last fall semester who participated in workshops, online events, online activities. So we have here a picture of all the winners from last semester with prizes that were graciously donated by Wisconsin. So for those of you who are wondering what the grand prize is for this semester, it is a Roomba vacuum cleaner. So all you need to do is earn yourself $15 in moolah, which 10 of it does need to be earned by either attending a workshop like tonight, or any of our workshops. We have a different one every single month. And you can earn yourself $10 in moolah, and you need 15. So you need to do something else that earns you an additional $5 to make yourself eligible for the Roomba. And that prize was also donated by Wisconsin Credit Union. For those out there who are thinking, it's just the Roomba, maybe the Roomba is not for you. Well, a good opportunity for you guys now is that we're also giving away a secondary grand prize, $100 worth of gift cards to a variety of businesses. So if you don't win the Roomba, all you actually need to do is earn $15 in moolah any which way throughout the entire semester to get yourself eligible for those gift cards. All right, enough about me. You guys don't want to hear about me at all. You guys want to get cooking. So I am actually going to turn it over now to Melissa, who's going to take you on our Salisbury steak Swedish meatball prep journey. Let's get cooking.
Hi there, welcome back to Frugal Foodies Home Edition, Volume 2. It's kind of a mouthful, and we're going to give you a mouthful here in just a little bit. But first, if you don't remember, you haven't joined us before, my name is Melissa. I'm an instructional assistant in the Culinary Management program here at CVTC. And I'm so excited to be part of this program. We do lots of great things, and today is no different than any of the others. So, let's get cooking. We want to start by talking about something that Payne brought up. It's called mise en place. Mise en place literally translates as everything in its place. And so our friendly cameraman here is going to show you, kind of like that Pang did, all of our items that are set out for us. As you can see here, none of these items have been chopped or prepped or even measured. They are just out within my workspace, and I have my pots and pans out as well as my utensils and some other items that I'm going to use directly next to the stove. So that is your prep. Before you push play on this video or before you start cooking anything, don't turn that burner on. Read your recipe all the way through. We teach our students every day in class that when you see a recipe, read it all the way through to the bottom, because you never know who wrote that recipe. Sometimes people put preheat oven on the very top in step 1, and sometimes they put it on step 10. Then you get all the way to step 10 and you have a cold oven. You never know how long it's going to take to heat it up. So, mise en place, very important. Everything in its place. So today and now we're going to get started, assuming you've read your recipe all the way through. We have one small curveball, so to speak. Your recipe talks about beef broth, and we're going to show you how to make that a little differently. Beef broth can be made with bouillon cubes. You can purchase it, or it can be made with a beef concentrate that we have here today. So I'm going to show you how we're going to make that over here on the stove. So the first thing I'm going to do is get my stovetop heated to about medium-high once I get it going. See, everything happens at home and on camera. But since we got this one going, we're going to use it right now. And your recipe calls for 3 cups of water, which I did kid a little bit. I have 3 cups of water measured out here. And that's exactly what you'll want to do, is measure out 3 cups of water. And you're going to put that into a pan. Right now I have it on high, but we're going to turn that down to medium. And the goal really here is to put your beef, I'm giving you beef baste, but if you had bouillon cubes, you would do the same. So again, here's your beef baste. You'll have a note for this on your card, but it's approximately 1 teaspoon per cup of water. So we need 3 teaspoons. You can see here I'm using 2 spoons, so I don't put my fingers in that. That's just a handy way to keep your fingers clean, but then also to get it off the spoon. So as you'll be able to see here, we've got the base in here, and we're just going to bring this up to a slight boil. Our goal is really just to reduce the beef concentrate, making us a nice beef stock. And while that's sitting there, we're going to turn our attention over to our potatoes now. First, I'm going to turn this burner down a little bit. We don't want it to boil over while we're prepping our potatoes. Now, again, Pang mentioned to you, we've got some jumbo potatoes. Just like in the grocery store, you never know what's going to be sent into you as far as size is concerned. So these 2 potatoes will easily make mashed potatoes for 4 people. So we'll start by peeling our potatoes. We're going to peel our potatoes just like anyone would. I like to go in the circular motion. But any way you do it, some people like to keep it set on the board. Some people just do up and down direction like I'm doing here. Really peeling a potato, there's no right or wrong. Now, interesting, you can see that I've got little spots. So I have this handy dandy little thing on the end of my peeler that takes that out. Now, if you don't have that on your peeler, you can just get your paring knife or any kind of knife and cut that out. You don't want it to be too much. You can see it doesn't go too deep. But some of these smaller imperfections that you can barely see, you can leave those on there. You don't want to take too much potato off, and once it's boiled and mashed, you're not going to know. Now, as you can see, I'm putting peelings into this container in front of me. This is also a really neat thing that we do here in class, and I know many do, especially if you're a fan of Rachel Ray. She always talks about her garbage bowl. Having this garbage bowl here in front of you really helps you save time from running back and forth to the garbage can and cleaning up your mess. So we prefer to do that. So you can see I'm almost done peeling my potatoes here. And I've got a little little gunk there, but not too much again. I'm just gonna give these a little rinse. Sometimes potatoes do come with a little bit of dirt on them. And then as your recipe says, you really just want to cut them into quarters. Or at the end of it, you'd like 4 pieces. So keeping your fingers away, you're gonna cut through the middle once. And you can see now we have a flat surface. I'm gonna do the same thing here again and show you cutting, and you've got a flat surface. So now you've got 2, we wanna have 4. Okay, so we have 4 pieces. And again, everything close to me, I've got my pot here. So I'm gonna get my potatoes into the pan. I've got a little bigger pan than I needed here, but I'm gonna cover these potatoes in cold water. So just like you would at home, we're gonna get them covered up and we're gonna set them over on the stove. I believe that while I get these filled with water and get them going, we're gonna show it over to Pang and see what she's doing.
All right. Hopefully you guys are following along. We got the potatoes prepped, we've got the beef broth going. So while Melissa's doing that, I want to share just some frugal groceries with you guys because this topic is frugal foodie. So Melissa did a little bit of research for us. And at the beginning of February, USA Today had listed these items as the most frugal groceries that you can pick up for you and your family. Starting off with oats. Who doesn't like oats? I like oats and cookies. That's about it. But at $3 a pound, that is an incredible price to be able to feed your family a nice and healthy breakfast. We've got lentils at $1 a pound, brown rice, potatoes, and then for our protein, chicken thighs are $2.50 a pound. I know that there's this whole thing out there where everyone just loves chicken breast, but I'm telling you, chicken thigh, that's where the flavor is, and I bet you Melissa will probably agree with me when we talk about which part of the chicken has the most flavor. Thighs for sure. Rounding it off with tuna, canned tuna. If you're somebody who doesn't really know how to cook meat or a little bit afraid of that, canned tuna, it's already cooked for you. Beans, peanut butter, eggs are another grocery items that are really frugal and good bang for your buck. Now speaking of bang for your buck, there's another list that Melissa put together for me for low-cost foods that have a high health value. Now I caution you with this, when I give you this list is that depending on what items are in season, they're going to be cheaper than others. I would say like right now, blueberries, when in season, are super cheap and super high in antioxidants, but maybe now, not so much. So there's a list of just really good healthy ingredients like carrots that are in your meal kit today, bananas, cabbage, onions, cauliflower, raisins, mushrooms, frozen blueberry, peanuts, all really great low-cost items depending on when they are in season in your area that really pack a good high health value. So Melissa, are you ready for the next steps?
I sure am,
Okay.
Pang. Thanks for that interesting information. I hope that you all take advantage of that. And not only that, take advantage of our food pantry on campus. So many of the items that Pang mentioned are right here in our food pantry and available to all students and staff who would like to take advantage of that. And I believe that you'll hear more about that later on. So where we left off was I filled the pot of potatoes with water. And now just so you can see, I'm really just taking a pinch of water, salt, or a pinch of salt, I apologize, and I'm putting that in the pan. And I'm just gonna give it a little stir here with our potatoes. Okay, we've got our potatoes over about a medium heat here. I did get this burner going while you all were at the break, thank goodness. So we're just gonna leave these on medium heat here until they come to a boil. If you'll see back here, our beef broth has certainly dissolved and we have a really nice dark and I would call it rich brown color. So that's your beef broth. Because this is close to where we'll be using it, we're gonna just set that on the back of our burner for now. If you don't have 6 burners like I'm fortunate enough to have here, certainly you can move that around. Okay, so we're gonna throw it back over here and we're gonna work on our vegetable prep. Now this is the really exciting twist and turn that I think we've planned for you today. We are actually going to make 2 meals with almost identical ingredients. Yep, 2 meals. So we're going to make Salisbury steak, and as you saw in your recipe cards, Swedish meatballs. Now the fun fact is we're gonna do all that prep right now. So as I'm talking through, don't be scared or confused or feel like we have things off here for you. We're literally doubling the meat mixture. So if we're looking at steps 1 through 4, we're doing that the same for 2 recipes and we're making it all at once. So we'll talk more about that as we go, but just know I'm doubling the ingredient list right now. So we're gonna work on prepping our vegetables. So the first thing we're gonna do is work on our mushrooms. Now, mushrooms, most people don't know this, are full of great vitamins, but also full of water. So they're really, really great healthful vegetable and a great filler that you might not know are there. Now I know there are people that don't like the texture of mushrooms, but the way we're preparing these today, I promise you no one will know they're there. Just give them a try. And even if you just put in half or 1 or 2 mushrooms, give it a try and just really open up your mind and see that you could try it and you won't know you're tasting it. So to clean our mushrooms, the first thing I did was break the stem off the bottom. So you can see I'm going to do that with all of my mushrooms. So you just have the cap. If you wanted to, you could keep the stems. They're just a little woodier texture. They're not as soft, and you might notice that in your meat mixture more than others. So now I have all of my mushrooms set out. Now a really interesting fact about mushrooms that people don't know as well is, as I said, they're full of water. But that also means if you put more water in them, you're going to take the taste out. So how you clean your mushrooms is a paper toweling or a damp towel, and you gently just wipe them off. And that will take any residue off. Most of the time they're pretty clean and you don't need to do anything. But it's really easy just to give them a wipe and get that dirt off. If you've done this before we started, great, but I just want to make sure you're not getting any dirt in your teeth when you take a bite of your Salisbury steak or your Swedish meatballs. Okay? And just like that, we've got clean mushrooms without any extra added water. So now the key to hiding these, if you'd like. Now remember, you don't have to hide them. If you like mushrooms, make them as big as you want. But I'm talking about hiding nutrition in your meal. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to make cuts. And you can see I'm making, we call them here planks or slices. Okay? So you've got all these slices. Now the great part about these slices is that I can put them flat. So now I cut that slice in half, but I still have a flat surface. And keeping my fingers and using my knuckles to guide, I'm making really small dices. And because these planks are cut in half, I get a small dice or a mince. Now, if that isn't small enough for you, you really want to go small, you can run your knife through it just like this. And this applies to the onions and other things as well. So you can see there we've got a smaller diced mushroom. So now I'm going to go a little bit faster, but you keep going at home at your own pace. We're not going to skip ahead of you. We are going to just keep chopping these in real time so you can do it as well. Again, remember keeping your fingers away from your blade. And getting that flat surface is really important. So I've got this flat surface and I'm guiding my knife through the mushroom. And I'm just moving them to the side as I chop. And that one didn't get cut in half, but remember, we can still do a nice rough coarse chop here. Okay, again, like the potatoes, you never know what size you're gonna get. So we're looking for 1 cup total. Remember, we're doubling our recipe. So you might get 6 mushrooms or 4 mushrooms or even 2, depending on the size. Make sure you're measuring. So I just wanna check here. I've got some mince and I've got 1 cup measuring cup. And I'm gonna put my mushrooms in it to see where I'm at. Again, because they are so full of water, we don't want to have too much because we don't want it to water down our recipe. So We're just shy, so I'm going to cut another mushroom. I did it a little different that time. I cut it in half first so that my planks were smaller right out of the gate. And I'm going to give it a quick chop. So really what we're doing here, as we said before, is we're providing you with 2 recipes, 8 total servings in one kit. And so we're saving you time, but we're also saving you money. And I think that is really something else. We're also going to try to save on dishes today. We're going to try to use as many pots and pans only once as we can. So I've got 1 cup of chopped mushrooms or minced. And again, you can go smaller or larger, whatever you'd like. Now, just like my garbage bowl, I have a keep bowl. So I'm done with my mushrooms. They're going to go right in there because I'm going to saute them all together once I finish all my other vegetables. I've got a little towel to wash my hands here. And we're going to go next to our red pepper. So this is a red bell pepper. Often comes with a sticker on it. They come pre-washed, so you don't have to wash that. But if you do see that there's a little dirt on there or anything else, impurities that you don't like, please feel free to run them under the washer. So the easiest way that I think cleaning a red pepper is to cut the bottom. So we've got a cut here on the bottom, and I just break it apart. And you can see now you have the insides. You don't want any of these insides, the seeds or anything with white on it. And really, again, your fingers are your best tools. So I'm just kind of scraping here with what I can with my fingers. I'm shaking all those seeds out and I'm breaking off all the white parts. Again, this is home cooking, right? We're teaching you how to cook in your house. We're not teaching you the French style cooking from the Culinary Institute of America like we do here in class. So we wouldn't teach our students this, but you at home, you're home cooking, and we want to make it easy for you. So you can see I made a couple slits in there because I want to make this pepper flat. Because I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the mushroom in starting by making planks. So you can see these planks are much smaller than you initially saw with your mushrooms. But I'm keeping my knuckles are guiding. See how I'm guiding the knife with my knuckles. I can't cut my fingers because they're in the pepper and my knuckles are guiding it. Again, with this, keeping your fingers tucked, your knuckles forward facing, we're making our planks. And we're just going to do this for now so I can show you. So you've got all these planks, right? So now we're going to get them diced. I'm going to do half of them so you can see, and then we'll do the other half and see where we're at. So here we're looking for a 1/2 cup total because we're doubling the recipe. Now we're just going the other way with this, and we want to make them small again. We're looking for a mince or a very small dice. Going all the way across the pepper. I'm a messy cook. You can ask anyone here in class, our students or instructors. Melissa is messy, so things are going to fly around, and that's okay here. It's okay for you at home. Just remember the rule. If you cook, you don't clean. So if you're making this dinner, make sure someone else is doing the dishes for you. So you can see here we've got our minced red bell peppers. And I'm going to go through them one more time here just to make sure they're small. As I said, and you'll read in your recipe, you want all your vegetables to really look about the same size because uniformity in any kind of cooking, especially with different textures and cooking times, is important because you want everything to end at the same time. So we're looking for a 1/2 cup. Again, all these vegetables, they don't have any food hazards, so we don't have to keep washing. So right now we're using the same cutting board, the same knife, and the same measuring cup. So this is a full measuring cup. And again, we're looking for about a 1/2 cup of red pepper. So just kind of eyeballing it there. We're maybe a little bit more. And then dumping it into our mixture there. Okay? So we're moving right along. So far, again, we've got a cup of minced mushrooms in our keep bowl for sauteing. And we've got a 1/2 cup of red pepper. We're now going to move on to our onion. I know. Everyone feels like they're gonna cry. But a really good tip is if you keep your onion in the refrigerator, sometimes the gases that come off the onion are a little bit less when they're cold, and so your eyes will not water as much. Otherwise, some are just strong and it's gonna happen, so get out those scuba goggles. The first thing we're gonna do here is cut off each end. So this is the root end, and you can see that by the root or what would have been in the ground. And then the top is almost always a little bit longer. So we've got those off, and we're gonna cut in half. So again, you're noticing the common theme, we've got two flat sides. But right now, because what do we do when we cook? We multitask. So we're gonna head back over to the stove, and as we can see, our potatoes are boiling. And they've been boiling for a couple minutes, so we're waiting for these to get fork tender or spoon tender. And I'm gonna get a fork and show you what fork tender looks like. As you guessed it here, people, we're not doing rocket science. If the fork goes through easily, they're done. Now, I can't get this in without applying pressure, so those potatoes are not done. With that being said, they're probably about 3 minutes from being done. So we're gonna either set a timer, or if you're thinking about it and have been doing this for a long time, you kind of know what 3 minutes is gonna be. So we're gonna get this onion finished up, and then we're gonna drain those potatoes. So we've got our onion, we've got it cut in half here. We wanna peel this outer layer off. And so really it's the outer brown layer and one under it that I take. Oftentimes right under the brown, it's still a little bit, you wouldn't want to eat it. It's tough, it's green. So I just go ahead and right out of the gate, take that top layer off so you have a nice clean onion here. So mincing or dicing an onion is the same no matter what size you want, what size you're going to end up with. You put the root side on the end, and we're going to put our hand with our fingers up like this. And we just ever so slightly saw through. Now I'm sawing through very close together, maybe 1/4 of an inch, because I want really small dices. So you can see that I've sawed through here, almost like a clam. Okay, now we're gonna go the other way. Again, keeping your fingers away. You're gonna go down. And honestly, guys, I'm never perfect at this, ever, ever, never, ever, but I try to be as close as I can. So I'm trying to do 1/4 inch here. Again, you can see some fall out, but for most of the part, it's intact. And now we're just gonna come through. Again, same claw, hold onto the knife and let your knuckles guide. And you're just gonna make slices as close together as possible. And just like that, you have a minced onion. And you can see it's all in small cubes. Now, a lot of this, I'm repeating myself, but it holds true for everything. If you feel like it's not the same size, it doesn't hurt to go through the onion one more time. Onions are very nutritious for you and also have a lot of water in them. But really, onions just give so much flavor to anything you're doing. So now again with the onion, since we're doubling it, we want about 1/2 cup. So we've got just 1/2 cup. So that was half an onion was 1/2 cup. Okay, and that's all you need for both recipes. Now, if you're prepping all of these vegetables ahead of time, but you don't want to go all the way through with making your meatballs at the same time you make your Salisbury steak, still prep them all and put them in a storage container in the fridge. They're going to hold up to 7 days, and even though they're minced all together, that's okay because you're going to cook them together. So they're going to end up with the same flavor anyways. So if you want to do this prep and take half of the mixture out, wrap it and put it in the fridge, you can do that too. There's no rules against that. So I'm just cleaning off my workspace here a little bit, and we're going to move on to our garlic. For those of you that don't work with garlic a lot, sometimes when the close of it is tight like this, it's a little daunting. But really, it's kind of fun. You just break it up, and it comes apart. So today we're looking for 2 or 3 garlic cloves, depending on your taste preference. So I've got the 2 garlic cloves here. And I find the easiest way is to pop them. So you just give them a smash and it comes right off. A lot of people are worried about this little end, the root. I actually never take that off. It cooks right in, and especially when you're mincing it, you don't even know it's there. So don't worry about it, and don't worry about the fact that they're not pretty. You smashed them to get the shell off or the paper, and now you're gonna slice them and dice them and get them to the small mince that we had before. So we're gonna do our planks. Now obviously this garlic's a little bit smaller than everything else, so your mince is going to be smaller by nature. But you don't want a big chunk in there when you take a bite into your Salisbury steak. So you still want to mince it up by doing the same that we did planks, and then going counterclockwise, and then going through them one more time here. Now, if you don't like garlic, this is a step you can leave out. Some people love garlic and some people do not. I love it and personally don't think you can get enough of it. So I think now our potatoes are complete. So we're gonna turn this burner off, and I'm gonna take this pot. I'm using a towel just in case my handle is hot. You can see that they are completely fork tender. My fork goes all the way through there. I can break it. I can do whatever I need to. And so since we're not going to need these for a while, what we're going to do is we're going to strain them into our colander. You can see I just stayed far away. You're going to have lots of steam. Or if you're looking for a facial today, go ahead and put your face over that steam. It'll open you right up. And then we're just going to pour these potatoes right back into the pan. This is the same pan that we boiled them in. And we're going to leave them here to sit until we're ready for them later. They're going to stay warm enough on my stovetop because I'm going to have other burners on and things going on. So basically just forget about your potatoes until we get back to them. So we have one last thing to prep for our vegetable mixture, and that is this giant carrot. I have no idea how we grow carrots this big. I guess I probably don't want to know, but nonetheless, a carrot. So the carrot is something great to put into any kind of ground meat mixture, especially if you're trying to stretch it on $1. And the way we're going to do it, you really shouldn't know it's there. When I've done different things like a pulled pork to sit in the crock pot, to make sandwiches out of, you can, thank you, Pang. If you're going to make sandwiches, any kind of burger recipe, if you do some grated carrot into that dish, it's going to go further. It's adding nutrients, and it's actually adding a little bit of natural sweetness. So I'm going to start grating here this carrot, and you can see I have a good old-fashioned box grater, just like your mom used to have, or you have. I still have one. I grate all my cheese on this at home, and you can see we have these coming out. I'm going to chop these a little bit to get them smaller, but while I'm grating, now that you've seen me do that, we're going to throw it to Pang and see what she has to say after all this.
Hey everyone, what about all that chopping, huh? I never knew that if you put onions in the refrigerator, that it might not release as much of the onion gas so that you're not crying. But hey, I'm an onion lover, I'm a garlic lover, so whatever, I'm gonna go through the process and put it in my food. So prior to Melissa showing you guys how to chop all these vegetables, she did mention the CVTC food pantry. And so I just want all of our students, staff and faculty out there to know that the pantry is open. The pantry is located here in the Business Education Center in room 102, which also houses Student Life. They are open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. So if you are a student who just wants to stretch your food budget a little bit, come on down and use the food pantry. All you need is your student ID, and that's just so that because it's for CVTC students. That's it. Nobody's recording anything. No one's saying, oh, Payne went to the food pantry 900 times this semester. No, it's just to ensure that our students are utilizing it so that we can then get more food actually donated from Feed My People to replenish our food pantry. So as Melissa mentioned, there were things that were on that top top groceries, frugal groceries like tuna. They always have rice, beans. So if this is something that you think would be helpful to you to help stretch your budget, I would highly recommend that you come and utilize the food pantry here at the Business Education Center in room 102, which is also the same room as Student Life, once again Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. If you were to have any questions about that, you can contact Michelle Feinborn, and we'll have her contact information up in the slide for you guys, so you guys can go ahead and reach out to her if you have any questions. I know that sometimes staff and faculty want to know how they can help support the food pantry, and I believe Michelle does have a list of items that you can provide that students can also take that is not food related. So it could be, I think we've had laundry soap in there before, toothpaste, hygiene products, paper products. So if that is something that our staff and faculty want to participate in and help for our students, it is a great resource and it's completely free to you. So it's another way to be frugal and stretch your dollars, especially when we're still, can you believe it, 1 year, coming up on 1 year with our pandemic here. So Melissa, are you ready for the crew?
I sure am.
All right.
Gang. All right, so I was talking to you about grating that carrot, and you saw it when it was right out of the grater, and I just want to show you, I chopped it up a little bit so it was even smaller. But so that thinness is going to cook just as fast as everything else. And now again, we're putting it right into our veggies. And you can see we've got all of our vegetables mixed together here. Lots of colors of the rainbow there. I couldn't love the look of that more. So the next thing we want to do is take our vegetables over to our stovetop. Remember, we have our potatoes warming here, and we are going to get out our trusty pan. Now you can see that I've got a deeper pan. If you have one of these at home, this is really fantastic for using for something like this, because we are going to make a sauce and everything is going to end up being combined and cooked into this pan. Okay? So I've put this pan on and I've got my heat over medium low right now, and I'm going to go ahead and add my butter. Now, I have to double check because I use a lot of butter, and I believe your recipe says, how much butter do we need on here, Pang? Is it a tablespoon?
1 tablespoon.
1 tablespoon. Yeah. That's right.
But I'm with you, Melissa. I love butter. Use butter as you wish.
So we're gonna let this butter just kind of roam around the pan. The smaller you cut up your butter out of the gate, the quicker it's gonna melt. Okay? So we're just letting that go. And again, if you don't want to use butter here, olive oil will work. Or a nonstick spray. But when you're sauteing things, you really want to start with some kind of fat. You could cut this down to make it a half a tablespoon or 1 teaspoon, but really just get a little bit of fat in your pan. And then once it melts down, you can see I'm just kind of swirling it to get that going. That's melted enough because I don't have patience. But nonetheless, we're going to dump our vegetables in, and you can hear that sizzle. So that's where it comes in really handy to have everything in one container. You can hear it sizzling. And I'm going to get a spoon here. I like to use my fingers a little too much, probably because they don't have much sensitivity after all these years in the kitchen. But essentially, we want to let these sit and cook down. So I'm really just going to leave these here, and they are going to sit and rest. Okay, so your vegetables are cooking. While your vegetables are cooking, we're going to start with that meat mixture. And so I'm going to grab my ground beef that, again, I have in a bowl somewhere here. Oh, right here. Again, this is live TV, people. We can do anything right or wrong. So I have my ground meat mixture. Again, this is the 2 pounds. If you'd rather it just be 1 pound and just do 1 prep, that's fine. But again, right now, we're doing 2 recipes in one. So we are doing the Swedish meatballs as well as the Salisbury steak. So at this point, we've got our meat here, and we are going to add in the rest of our ingredients, and then hold for our vegetables because they're going to go in here as well. So again, we are going to start with our breadcrumbs. I have these great little bowls that have measuring increments inside them, so I know that these breadcrumbs are 8 ounces or 1 cup. It would be half a cup if you are making the single batch. Next item we have are eggs. So I always like to crack my eggs into a container before I put them into anything I'm cooking, just in case you get a shell. So as you can see, this time I left out and I did not get any shells in there. So now I'm just gonna give them a little whisk. And we're just whisking those through so they're easier to mix once we put them in our meat mixture. Okay, so again, now we've got the meat and the breadcrumbs, and we are going to put our egg mixture on here. Okay, we've got that going. And we are going to get a teaspoon, and we want to add 2 teaspoons or 4 teaspoons total if you're doubling it. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 teaspoons of Worcestershire sauce. Pang, it took me forever. I still don't know if I always say it right. It's one of those words, right? And then this is where I'm gonna add a little salt and pepper. Again, your recipe says salt and pepper to taste, a teaspoon, 2 teaspoons. I'm a big fan of putting pepper in right away and salt. And you saw me doing it from high above. The higher you go, the more you don't have to work for it to go all over the space that you're working with. Just another little tip or trick that we use here. And we're gonna go back to our veggies. I just wanna show you now that our vegetables are cooking. I'm gonna get my spoon quick, and we're gonna give these a little whirl. Again, your recipe says about 5 or 6 minutes. We're just trying to really cook some of the waters out, get those seasonings to blend in, and make sure nothing that you take a bite of is too crunchy. So I think, as you can see, the onions are starting to turn translucent, but we've got just a little bit more time here. We really want this to cook all together. Okay, so we're gonna leave that there for right now, and we're gonna come back to our meat mixture. So far, we have the ground beef, we have the Worcestershire sauce, we have the breadcrumbs and the eggs, and then a little salt and pepper. So this is just gonna sit and wait here for a minute because we're gonna eventually add those vegetables. And so while those are waiting and our vegetables are cooking, we're gonna let Pang take it away here for just a couple minutes.
Okay, so a little bit of break time from cooking. So all of you students out there who are cooking with us, you know this is a Money Matters event. So while we have a bit of a break right now, if you're joining us, we would like you to put your email address into the chat box of Zoom so that we can get you your moolah. This is the time to do it. You're waiting for your vegetables anyways. You haven't quite got your hands in mixing the meat mixture yet. So go ahead and put your name into the chat box. Not your name, I'm sorry. Your student's email address into the chat box, and we will get that moolah recorded for you. So speaking of moolah, if you guys are enjoying tonight's festivities for the month of March, can you believe it's March? Guess what's happening next month on April 15th? It's an adulting topic. You all should be aware of taxes. You're right. April 15th is when it's expected that you file your federal and state taxes. So if you're a brand new adult, or maybe an adult like myself who's still not quite sure what are taxes, why do we have to do it, how is this different from the taxes you pay out of your paycheck every single week or bi-weekly that you get paid, join us. Money Matters is partnering up with the CVTC accounting instructor, Ann Thompson, to bring you all things about taxes. She's going to take you through some basic tax terminology, some good tips and tricks and questions that students have had in the past. She is going to answer those questions for you and anything else that you bring during that session. The session is via Zoom, so you don't even have to leave your house. In addition to just getting some of that basic tax knowledge and tax terminology, Ann is going to take you guys through how to do a 1040, a federal 1040 tax return if you have just one W-2 or just a couple W-2s. She's going to show you the things that you need to take from your W-2 to put into your 1040 tax return. her and I joked a little bit about how filing a tax return is kind of like filing your FAFSA. So another plug for FAFSA. If you haven't done it yet, you're going to want to make sure that you get your FAFSA in for the next school year. The CVTC Financial Aid Office will be uploading those applications for the next school year about end of April, beginning of May. So you should be getting communication from the CVTC Financial Aid Office about mid-May. But back to the tax stuff. If you can do your FAFSA, you can do these taxes. So you're going to want to join Ann and I. We've got 3 sessions going on for the month of March. The very first one is going to be March 12th. So 2 days after this, we're going to have our very first Brass Tax of Taxes workshop. And then we'll have one on March 16th. And on Tuesday, March 30th. All of that information is going to be in a slide where you guys can go ahead and RSVP for that, because I think it's really super important. It's a topic that's going to take you, from your very first job to your very last job. It's important for us to know this information. So Money Matters and CVTC Accounting Department with Ann Thompson are going to bring it to you. I think, Melissa, are you quite ready yet for them?
Sure, come on over. So what I've done here is I've got a little plate out, and I have, you can see the mixture, the vegetable mixture is cooked to just soft. And that might be a little difficult for you to tell, but you can see the mushrooms have really shrunk. The onions are pretty see-through, and the peppers and everything else have just turned a little bit different color. If you need to and you want to, you could taste it, put it in your mouth and taste it and make sure it's soft. We just don't want it to be squishy. Now I advise taking this out before you start your meat mixture, or right now just waiting a few minutes or a few seconds until it cools down a little bit. Just because I like to say, use your hands. They're the best tools we have. Now, again, you heard me say earlier, my hands are kind of heat resistant. And so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna get my spoon and we're gonna get these vegetables right in here. So the really exciting thing about putting all of these vegetables in the Salisbury steak is that it's not only adding flavor, but it's going to add so many other health benefits. Okay, so I'm just gonna start with a little stir here, just to kind of make sure my meat's broken up. My metal spoon is really a good tool for making sure my ground beef is broken up. I'm also getting some of that cool meat mixed with those warm vegetables so I don't burn my fingers. And now I'm just gonna get my hands going in here, and just like, I think we said this last time when we were making pasta, it's kind of like Play-Doh when you were a kid. You really just kind of want to squish it all together. Your goal here is to make everything combined, all one mixture. Now we're providing you with 2 pounds of ground beef. This ground beef is 81-79% fat to meat ratio. So if you'd like to buy a leaner one on your recipe in the future when you make this without us, please feel free. Other options are substituting half ground beef with half ground turkey or chicken. Putting that together, you'll have a little bit whiter meat in there. And that's naturally going to take your fat count and calorie count down. So if you look here now, you should see everything is very well combined. And I'm kind of flattening out the top because this is going to help me measure. Like I said, we've got 2 meals here in this one meat mixture. Okay, so now we have our meat mixture, and you can see how I really smoothed out the top. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut half of the meat mixture and take it out for the moment. Okay, so we've got 1 pound of meat mixture in the bowl and 1 pound taken out, just so we make sure that we have equal equations for both the Salisbury steak and the meatballs. So now back to that scoring thing. You just want to go down the middle both ways. This isn't going to be perfect, but that's kind of the beauty of this recipe is it's not a beautiful meal, it's not a beauty shot, but it tastes so good. And we are showing you how to make it taste good as well as be healthy for you. So as it says in the directions, you want to make a football shape. That's about as close as a football shape I can get. A little pointed, but you want here about a 1/2 inch thick, maybe a little bit more. This isn't made to be a thin steak or a hamburger. We're gonna go right on a platter here. And again, we're gonna continue on until we have 4 of these because we are serving 4 people. You can really see your mushrooms through and other vegetables throughout here. And again, you could cut those smaller. You could put them in a food processor so that they're all a little bit smaller and you don't notice them. You can make them bigger and make them really part of the texture, and the different flavor profiles come out even more when you take that bite. You can cook them longer and make them a little bit softer as well. And once as they're cooking or sauteing, that's really when they're gonna get more of that water out and shrink up even a little bit more than we discussed. So I'm on my last patty here, and then I'm gonna show you the way that I think is the easiest to make meatballs. Now, I love making meatballs of any kind. I really love making Italian meatballs with my spaghetti sauce. I love to use my grandmother's recipe and make them for everybody and anybody that wants to eat them. You can ask all my friends that. I get a little bit of grief about making meatballs too much, but here is what I like to do. So, before, everybody liked to do this. Take a pinch and roll a ball. Well, the more you did that, a pinch turns into 3 pinches, and then I end up with 2 different sizes. Well, again, like we talked about, you don't want 2 different sizes because they're not going to cook evenly. So you get a handy dandy scoop. These most often are shown making cookies, but they work as well for anything. Ice cream, meatballs, you name it, you can do it. And so you can see they're much more uniform. Now the bottom is flat and you've got a little overfill there, but again, it doesn't have to be perfect. This is just showing you how to make them very uniform. I kind of peel a little bit off the sides before I put it on the pan. But you're getting that perfectly round meatball every time. So this is where we talk about dividing up. You can certainly continue on and make both meals all the way through and put one in the refrigerator for next week. It can sit in your refrigerator for up to 7 days from when you make it. Or you can take these meatballs and sear them off and then just finish them on the day you want to eat it. Or you can simply just put them in a safe container that fits in your refrigerator. That can be a storage bag, that can be a Tupperware, whatever you like. You could put them in the refrigerator. And again, like I said, 7 days from preparation, you've got meatballs. Okay, so you can see how we did that there. We've got all our meatballs ready and our Salisbury steaks. Again, right now we're just going to show you how we're going to prepare the Salisbury steaks, and we're going to leave it to you to decide when you're going to use the meatballs. But know that as we're searing or browning off our Salisbury steaks, it's exactly the same process that you're going to do with your meatballs. Okay? I'm just going to give my hands a quick wipe here. And we're going to go back to this pan that we used for our vegetables. You can see there's still some oil in there and a little bit of the vegetables. That's okay. That's just adding flavor to your food. So we've got our burner here. I'm going to turn it up a little bit because we want to go to more of a medium high. Really what we're doing right now is going to get a really nice brown coating or brown texture on the outside of our Salisbury steaks. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to grab my steaks. Once your pan is preheated, I've got obviously a gas stove here, so my pan is going to preheat pretty high. But like I said, with those bits left in there, they're going to start sizzling. Or another way to check is put some water on it. I have my spatula and some water over here, and so I was just flinging it. I don't know if you heard that sizzle or not, but that's how I knew my meat was going to sizzle. You really want your pan to be hot when you do this, because a sear should not be cooking all the way through. And as you can see, I was not laying everything down perfectly in here. You're going to want to move that over. I lost my football a little bit, but again, this is us cooking live with you. this might happen to you. So what we're doing here is we are searing them. You can see some of the fat is rendering out of the hamburger and everything's cooking. We have it over medium-high heat so we can really get that brown crust on the outside. The recipe says about 3 minutes, and a good way to check is just to kind of peek at one side here and see if you have it brown yet. We're not quite there, so we're gonna let this go for just 1 more minute until they get real brown, and then we're gonna flip them. This would be a good time to check your potatoes. And we're gonna move them a little closer to what we're doing here because we're gonna get ready to mash them very soon. So I can tell I've got some brown bits in the bottom of my pan now here. You can see that kind of caramelization, as we call it here. And you're gonna give it a flip. And there you go, you've got brown. We're gonna do all of them. If it feels like they're kind of hard or they're sticking, that's okay. It's hamburger. That one has some great color. There we go. I know you're thinking this isn't beautiful. That's okay. It's gonna look beautiful. And while I'm finishing searing these, now that you know what color it is, we're gonna see if Pang has a few more tidbits for us before we wrap this up.
All right, everybody. So hopefully you guys have been following along, enjoying the cooking with Melissa. I actually wanted to highlight what the culinary program does. I don't know if you guys know this, but on every Monday and Wednesday, starting I think it was at the end of February, from now to the end of the semester, every Monday and Friday. I'm so sorry. Every Monday and Friday, there is going to be a culinary pop-up. So they've got really different menus from all regions around the world, and for $10. For $10, you get appetizers, you get an entree, you get an array of desserts, and they serve it Monday and Friday from 11:45 to 12:30. All you need to do is actually just pull up into the RCU parking lot. The students will be there to take your order and bring your food out to you. All curbside pickup. So nothing that you need to do as far as placing your order or anything like that. Just come Monday and Fridays for their culinary worldly pop-ups. $10 for appetizers, your main entree, and desserts. Now on Wednesday, they have their pop-up restaurant. And that is more of an a la carte menu. Melissa, does that menu change every month, or how does that work?
That menu changes every 2 weeks, Pang.
Okay, so on Wednesdays, every 2 weeks, the menu changes and the students provide, we'll do a array of appetizers, main entrees, desserts, and things like that, but it is a la carte, which is different from the pop-ups on Mondays and Fridays. So really 3 days a week. You as students, staff, and faculty, community members can come in, enjoy the culinary team as they tantalize your taste buds with tastes from around the world. I think yesterday, on Monday, a couple weeks ago, they had from the Midland, so there was strip steak. I think that we had lobster rolls one week too. So come and join. We'll have the website up on one of the slides here. Just go ahead and check out the website. Menus are being updated as they come up. You'll get to see all the upcoming culinary pop-ups on Mondays and Fridays. No need to call, just come on in, and the students will take your order and get that out to you curbside. So you don't have to get out of your car. Isn't that great? Love it, love it, love it. So so now we have the culinary pop-ups and restaurant. If you're thinking that you may want to be a little chef to be, the culinary program offers a lot of different certificates, embedded technical diplomas, along with the 2-year degree. So if you're interested in exploring this as a career choice for you, I would highly recommend making an appointment and talking with Ellen, who's the academic advisor for the culinary program, and see if the 2-year program would work for you. The 1 year, I think they've got like embedded certificates. I believe there's even like a baking one that you can do as well. So if culinary is something that you're interested in, this would be a great opportunity for you to explore to see what we have here at CVTC that may match what it is that you might be wanting to go to school for. All right, so let's bring up. I think Melissa, she's good. So let's let's finish off this dish.
All right, we are going to get some butter in the pan here. We've got 2 tablespoons of butter. And again, we're going to melt this butter off. And we're still using that same pan that had all our goodness in it. The butter's kind of melting it all together. And as soon as the butter gets melted, we're going to put the flour in. That's what we call making a roux. So we're going to put the flour in, and that's going to really create our binder or thickener for our sauce. We've got a nice little melt here going, and you can see I actually am cooking those meatballs so you can see what they look like. I just got them on and I'm searing one side, but see how they all fit in one pan? We're getting all that great little bits back there. So I'm going to grab my flour, and it's tablespoons. I apologize. We need our tablespoon. I like to stir by swirling the pan. Certainly you can use your spoon or anything else. And we're just about there. So I'm going to go ahead and add my 3 tablespoons of flour. Now remember, we're going back to one recipe here. So this is really just cooking the Salisbury steaks. Okay, so I've got the flour in here and I'm going to give it a good stir with my whisk. And you can see it gets this really lovely little golden brown color. And we're just going to let that sit for one moment. Laura, if you'd like to show us, we've got our Salisbury steaks here. We've got a really good crust on those, some great color. And that is what we're going to add back. Again, as you can see, we're keeping those close. And speaking of close, we're going to grab that beef stock that we made earlier. And now that we've been stirring this roux, we are going to add in our stock. Now I know that I have a 2-ounce ladle here. And there are 8 ounces in a cup. And this calls for 2.5 cups. So that's why I can do this. For you at home, certainly you could use your measuring cup or anything else. So I'm at 6, 8, and I've got about half in now, and I want to stir this up because you can see it's getting a little chunky in there. But you're already seeing this gravy really, or this sauce really come together. Okay, now I have another 8 ounces to add. So that's 2 cups, and then 2 more to make it 2.5 total cups of broth. We're just going to set that back there because we're going to use that one more time. And I'm just going to give this a good stir here. And you can really see you have pretty much what you would have as gravy for your mashed potatoes, and we will have in the end. It's a little thin now that we've got all of our broth in, so we're just going to let this simmer for a moment, as it says on your recipes, now that we've got it all stirred together. You can see it's not quite as thick as you saw just a moment ago. So we're going to let that come up to a simmer. And then the next step is to put our steaks back in. So you can see we've got it simmering here. It's doing a great job of heating up. It's doing a great job of getting thick, which is exactly what we want for our finished product. Again, I'm stirring with my pan. You can certainly grab your spoon and do that. And you can see we have the simmer going here in the middle now as well. This takes approximately 1 to 2 minutes. And then you're going to very carefully add your Salisbury steak right in there. Just be careful because, like I said, the gravy is simmering, or sauce is simmering. But this is what's going to finish cooking our steaks. So while these finish cooking on our burner here, I'm actually going to switch it out to a different one. This guy's really stubborn here.
No, not gonna work for us today. We're gonna have to turn that out. We're gonna move our steaks to the back burner where we have a flame going so we can use the front here. We want this to simmer over medium heat. So I'm turning that down so it can simmer. You can cover it or not cover it, whichever you prefer. But you can see I've got my flame going here. We've got a nice simmer. Great. Okay. So I've got my whisk that I was using to stir in my flour and my butter, making that roux, and then stirring in the beef broth. And I'm actually going to take it, and this is what I'm going to use to mash my potatoes. So the old school potato masher that you've all had, known and loved when you were little, you can still use that. You can use a hand mixer. You can use whatever you'd like. But I've got kind of a rough masher. You can see a couple of my potatoes got a little warm. That's okay. That's flavor. If you don't like that, you can certainly throw that bit away. You can see what I'm talking about right there. That started getting a little brown on us, but that's okay. So now we have our potatoes mashed. And this is the tip and trick that we're going to add to you for healthy cooking. You've got a half a cup of your beef broth left. We're going to use this instead of our traditional heavy cream or milk, because you're already going to have gravy, right? So we're going to have some beef flavored mashed potatoes. Now you could use chicken broth. You could use milk. You could use heavy cream. We're just showing you this beef broth. You can see the only part that's not fun about using your whisk is it's hard to get out. But if you give it a little shake, you'll get it out. I'm going to switch to a spoon now, and I'm going to add in a little bit of butter, because you really just can't have mashed potatoes without butter. So we're stirring in our butter. And these are, I would say, these are smashed potatoes. These aren't your traditional whipped. They are a smashed potato. Again, if you want them whipped, you could use a hand mixer or your stand mixer. You could use the old-fashioned potato masher, or you could even use just your blender that you have. We're going to take a peek, and we're going to see that our gravy's thickening and our Salisbury steaks are finishing up. You can see they're just kind of finishing cooking in this gravy. And this is where you can really see that it doesn't matter the exact shape, because we have the gravy surrounding them and all the colors are really coming out. So the last thing we want to do is show you how to do a slow-cooked frozen vegetable. And I'm just going to get my mess out of the way here for you so we can show these vegetables. If we were on TV, I'd have an assistant for you, but you've got to see a little bit of my mess today. Make sure I get this burner on. So for your vegetables, frozen vegetables are very economical. You can buy a bag at Walmart or any grocery store for about 99 cents a bag. You can get blends, but today I'm just going to show a traditional green bean. So here I have a traditional green bean, and I'm going to pour just a little bit of olive oil in my pan to coat, because we're going to saute these again just like we did with the other vegetables. So sauteing means you would add a little bit of fat to the pan. So it's basically just a covering or a tablespoon, and that's going to heat up, and we're just going to add in our green beans to the pan. You can hear them sizzle already. So this is a pound of green beans total. And we are going to, while they're simmering, we're going to give them, again, up high with a little salt and pepper so it goes all over. And this will season them. This is where you could add, if you have some extra vegetables, you could certainly add in some chopped onions, mushrooms, garlic, red pepper. You could add anything you want to this dish right now, and the vegetables are going to add flavor. But since frozen vegetables come frozen, you can put them right in this pan, and they're a little softer than if a vegetable were to come straight from the garden. So we're going to let these saute for just a couple moments in here. And while we do that, we're going to look at our Salisbury steaks. So again, these need to simmer for about 7 to 8 minutes, just depending on. We have them sear a little bit longer. So to me, we're looking at our gravy's a little bit thicker.
Our steaks look like they're completely cooked because they puffed up in the middle here a little bit. And they're very easy to move around the pan. So I'm going to turn my burner off. And I'm going to get out a plate so we can show you. Make sure you pay attention to your beans. Again, I'm stirring. You could certainly use any kind of utensil to stir. You can use your tongs. Just make sure you're stirring them so your beans are all touching the surface heat. And so what I'm going to do now, a little trick that we like to use is this oven is turned off. So that oven was completely off and I had my plate in there. So now that plate is warm. So when I serve my family on this plate, it's going to ensure that no matter how long it takes me to get everything on that plate, the food is going to be warm. So we're going to add a little bit of our smashed potatoes here to our plate. Again, we're feeding 4, so you want to make sure you do an evened out amount. Hopefully the broth color doesn't frighten your family before you're able to give it to them. But if it does, just tell them it's really good for them. We're going to add our beef just like this. And then we're going to put a little bit of our gravy on there with our ladle. So you want to just take a ladleful or a spoon, however you'd like to do this, and you're going to finish it off just like that. So that is going right on top of there. And then lastly, our beans are now done. It literally just takes a couple minutes. You can see that you've got a nice vibrant green color here in these vegetables. And I'm going to bring these over to my plate. And we're just going to put a nice little helping right here. If you live in a household where people don't like things touching, be careful not to get those beans on that gravy. And that is Salisbury steak with smashed potatoes and sauteed green beans. Peng, do you have anything to add to us today?
I do. Just a couple more things while Melissa's getting this set up here at the dining table for us is if you enjoyed tonight's Frugal Foodie Home Edition, remember this is number 2. We've got one more coming up in the month of April. So we'll have another home edition Frugal Foodies for you guys. So if you enjoyed this, make sure that you RSVP. Once again, free meal kits for the first 20 students, and then we'll have meal kits available for staff and faculty to purchase. Last thing that I do want to make note of, we've got the next Frugal Foodies coming up in April, on April 16th. However, April is a huge month for Money Matters because it is Financial Literacy Month. We are going to have a whole week's worth of events starting on April 12th through April 17th of events that you guys can do to participate in Money Smart Week, to earn yourself moolah, to earn yourself prizes, to learn how to stretch those dollars. There's going to be more details to come on that, but I wanted to give you guys a sneak peek because all of the events that we're going to be having are going to be done virtually. We want you guys to join us. That is the week of April 12th. Events every single day. They will be virtual. You'll have opportunities to earn moolah, and the grand prize is AirPods. Yes, you heard me. Haha, heard me. AirPods. But let's go ahead and let's. I want to eat. Melissa,
Do you want to eat?
I do.
Awesome. Well,
Good.
we wanted to make sure that you knew what the meatballs would look like. So we've got them here over the egg pasta, and then we've got our finalized Salisbury steak with smashed potatoes and gravy, as well as some green beans. So these are our 2 dishes. Again, you can make the meat mixture at once and keep it for later. You can cook the meatballs right away. You can actually take all the meat into one and make it all meatballs or all Salisbury steak. The only main difference is your sauce, and you can see this one's a little creamier. Your sauce is a sour cream sauce. So you're going to get a little sour cream to make that Swedish meatball a little bit more Swedish, if you will. And if you're really trying to make this meal special, nothing brightens up your plate like a little fresh parsley. So you can certainly do that. Bon appetit!
All right, thank you guys so much for joining us for this edition of Frugal Foodies Home Edition. 2 meals for the price of 1. Salisbury steak, Swedish meatballs. Thank you so much, Melissa, for joining us and helping everybody cook the meals tonight. We hope that you guys have fun, and we'll see you guys on our next Frugal Foodies.
Thank you.